Hello, I'm Alan Gray. Welcome to East Ruston Old Vicarage. You know, one of the gardens in our garden that is most fascinating to visitors is the exotic garden, and here we are. Now, exotic gardening for me starts really with foliage, tall bamboo, big T-Rex, Trachycarpus fortunei, you name it. It's got to be big, it's got to be bold. But something in this garden needs pepping up a little bit, and I've had an idea. So as we walk round and I show you the exotic garden, I'll tell you what it is. One of the intriguing plant combinations in this garden is Sambucus nigra black lace. Now I can hear you saying, but that's not exotic. But just remember, it's not what you got, it's the way that you use it. Because this is hard pruned every year to give me lovely, succulent young stems. And it grows through this wonderful Impatiens here, which I think should be better known because it's quite hardy. It makes a big old fat tuber underneath the ground, and it's called Impatiens flanaganae. And you can see it's a bit like Tinctoria, but it has lovely pink flowers. Not quite so large, not quite so luscious, but just as nice. This is an intriguing plant. It's a climber. It's related to cucumbers and it has these lovely little yellow lantern-shaped flowers. But it is vigorous, and in very vigorous years I have to pull it all out and it starts again from the base. Otherwise it would envelop everything. But it's a great plant, it's interesting, and not many people are silly enough to grow it, should I say. The other plant down here, which is now making an intriguing show with its berries, is Phytolacca americana, the Virginian pokeweed. And again, just see how that contrasts beautifully with the Sambucus. Behind me here in the exotic garden you see a red banana, Ensete ventricosum. This is one of the plants that we bed out annually because it is not hardy. But they're quite big plants to handle, and what we do with them every year at the end of the season, we chop the leaves off, chop the roots down to a very fine root ball, put them in much smaller pots to store them for the winter in frost-free conditions, and we give them hardly any water because the whole stem is packed with moisture. It's very important not to give them water because otherwise they'll rot. But behind me further, if you can catch a glimpse of it, is that fabled plant called the Wollemia pine. This was found quite a few years ago now. It was thought to be extinct, and somehow or other people managed to propagate it, and we've all got them in our gardens today. I've got about 3, but I only bought 1. 2 of the others were given to me by people that bought them, and they put them in a pot and they suddenly realised they were going to get too big. So hey, if you've got a spare Wollemia pine, I'm your man. Here we have a little bit of a panorama. Starting at ground level, we have this grey-leaved, well, it's almost blue-leaved, isn't it? It's an Elymus, but it's a very invasive grass. Now if you grow this in your borders, you would have to put the spade around it once a year. And I know that at Great Dixter they do that and they're happy to do it, but it's not a plant that you want to plant and just let it go because it'll run all over your garden. Then we go through the red bananas again, which you can see here. They're quite tall. They're taller than me at this time. And here, this is Tetrapanax papyrifer rex, otherwise known as T-Rex. Don't worry if you can't remember all of those Latin names, because it's quite affectionately known as T-Rex because it is big. It is the largest leaf that we can grow outside in England at this moment, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. One little thing about it is that it has indumentum underneath the leaves and on the stems. And you have to be very careful with this because it's an irritant. And if it gets in your eyes or in your mouth or in your ears, it can be very irritating and give you a serious cough and make your eyes run as well. If we go to the very top there, you'll see Trachycarpus fortunei, Chusan palm, which comes from the Chusan Islands off the coast of China. It was introduced into England in the 1840s by Robert Fortune, hence its name, fortunei. It always makes me laugh because it was introduced in 1840 something or other, planted, one of the originals, in the gardens of Peckover House in Wisbeach, where it still stands today, swinging around like a self-conscious cabbage way up in the sky, about 60 feet tall. And people ask me, is it hardy? I think so. I love this little Cuphea, first seen at Great Dixter about 35 years ago in East Sussex. It's such a gem of a plant. The flowers are torpedo-shaped, like little cigars almost, and they're red at the back, changing to orange and going along to yellow, with a little purple anther in the front. Isn't it such a darling thing? But to get the best from it, you need to grow a mass of it together. So what I do is, in the late summer, I take cuttings and I do them to 20 cell tray cuttings, and probably you know, grow them through the winter, pot them on in spring, and then plant out about 40 plants together to get a good old patch. And it really does make a show. The other thing about it is it's surprisingly hardy. If this Cuphea has a dry situation throughout the winter and it gets lots of sunshine, it should be hardy for you. It always pops up here somewhere or other every spring. Growing behind the lovely little Cuphea is this stately Salvia, and it's Salvia Amistad. It's become terribly popular in recent years, and the great thing about this is it has these wonderful purple labiate flowers, but they emerge from very dark bluey purple calyxes, and after the flower drops the calyx remains, so it's quite a decorative long season. This is a salvia that is, shall we say, nearly always hardy. Nearly always, but what is hardiness again? One that is not hardy is just behind me here, and this is from Mexico. It's called Salvia confertiflora. It has these wonderful corrugate leaves, lovely red stems, and the most fiery red flowers from dull red flower buds. It's a poppet, but there's a little trick to Salvia confertiflora. You can make a big plant of it in its second year and plant that in the garden. You'll get a much better show. I know not everybody can do that, but it's worth doing if you can. On the theme of salvias, this is another one, but this is a biggie. These are the blue flowers, and if you look, the plant starts down there, and then it goes way up, 10 feet tall, and it does that annually. From the ground it grows 10 feet tall in a single season, and it really is a stately giant, and it's one of the plants that I love in the exotic garden. Also love this too. This is Polonia Tomentosa, the Chinese foxglove tree, grown here just for its foliage. This is not the biggest foliage that you'll get, but I like to have it so that it produces medium-sized leaves. It's a great contrast to other plants. And if I can can I force you back? I think I can, because we've got the tree of heaven here, which is another pollarded tree, and you get these wonderful leaves, this pinnate-shaped leaves that just tumble down, and it's all about contrast, one form against another. And I've got another tree around the corner that I'd like to show you, but that can be a bit of a nuisance, but come and have a look. This is a member of the Pseudopanax family. This is Pseudopanax laetus, L-A-E-T-U-S. It has these lovely dark green leaves, but something about this is that it has a bit of a shine on the leaf. And remember that if you can use a leaf that's shiny and light reflecting, it's always cheerful. Just as if the rain has just finished and you know, polished them all for you. It's absolutely lovely. But be careful, because this is a big growing plant. It's a thug. But you don't have to put up with it like that. I mean, you have a pair of secateurs in your hand. Use them judiciously in spring, and you'll get the shape of plant that you want. Here in the depths of the jungle of the exotic garden, and it is a bit like a jungle at times because these plants are large growing, including this bamboo. I mean, just look at the thickness of these culms. And you know, we have this thing about bamboos going walkabout. Does this go walkabout? Yes, it does. It roams too far, and we have to take a spade and chop through those roots and shoots and chop them off. But isn't it worth it just to get these huge, thick, olive green culms? C-U-L-M-S. This tremendous plant that I'm standing in amongst here is Vitis cognitii. It has one of the largest leaves of any climber that we can grow in England, and it will climb to about 30 feet. There's also another way of using this if you have the space. If you've got a woodland garden, why not train it along the floor of the woodland garden? It makes a wonderful carpet. And the great time to see this is in late October or early November, when the whole thing flares up in shades of red, cream, orange, and it's just, oh, it's like a fiery furnace. It's absolutely fantastic. And if you take these leaves and you lay them on a plate and serve your cheese when you're having supper with your friends, that's a double delight. What a tantalising plant, Arundo donax. It's the giant variegated reed. Years ago we used to take this in the winter because it wouldn't survive the frost. Today it stays out all year round. And the great thing about it is, if you want to propagate this, if you come in close, I'll show you a little trick. Because if you look at this stem here, you'll see it's got little side shoots on. And what we do is we gently pull down and take off that side shoot, and if I plant that in humid conditions, it will make a new plant. I mean, look at that for a leaf. What a whopper. It's fantastic. This is our old friend T-Rex, Tetrapanax papyrifer rex. Now there's three ways of growing it. You can cut it right to the ground and you'll get this, a single rosette at ground level. You can chop it off anywhere along the stem and it will shoot from below your cuts and you'll get that, which is a plant about 6 feet tall. Or you can just let the whole thing go. And there you have it. 20 feet of fun and fabulousness. Dahlias. I think I'd like to add more dahlias to this garden because the sheer size of this garden, the size of the plants, the size of the leaves in it, mean that I've got to get the scale right. And the one way of doing that is to use dinner plate dahlias. You know, those with flowers as big as your head or even bigger. They'll make a dramatic addition to this area, I think.
You could have brought your machete.
Gosh, there's a tiger in here. Behind me here you see Musa Ensete. No you don't. Goes on for the whole year. No it doesn't, it goes on for the whole season. I first saw it at Great Dixter about 35 years ago. Great District. I mentioned dahlias earlier on and this is quite a fascinating one. This is, what's it called?